as noted previously, there's a long trail of things. So one thing that I applaud Mozilla for, I guess, saying many, many times is wanting to have an open and free internet. We read in essence their mission statement that they believe in having an open internet and an internet where you can basically choose your experience and like block whatever you want, or like in essence a more free and open internet. Okay, so part of this is them supporting projects like ONI, the Open Observatory of Network Interference. And basically what this project does is it can, in essence, do some tests on your network to see, hey, what kind of blocks do you have on the network that's keeping you from getting information that you may be interested in? What kind of things might be censored on the network you're in? And are VPNs being blocked on it? And is there a way to get around it? It kind of, in a lot of ways, has some snowflake avoidance techniques, but yeah. So the initiative has a history of spanning over a decade, from its origins within the Tor project to its current independent status. Our vision has always been about building tools that allow people to independently investigate in network interference. And so let's see, the initiative makes this data openly available so others can use it to catalyze investigations or advocacy. ONI Probe is made possible by regional and national experts who curate lists of sites that may be blocked. Websites like political activism forums or social media platforms, a probe tool checks users' access to those sites, providing a detailed picture of what country content is blocked and where in the world. So basically, it, like I said, scans the network for different blocks and things like that. ONI doesn't just focus on blocked websites. The initiative also determined where instant messaging apps like Telegram or Signal are blocked, and it can test to see if Tor or VPNs work in a particular region, as I noted. So ONI Probe does come default, is an installable app from first startup on Calyx OS. So that was kind of my first exposure to it, but I haven't used it that much. I've probably used it here and there, but that's about it. So they've supported ONI, which is a project that helps with avoiding online censorship and network interference. And then here we are again. France's browser-based website blocking proposal will set a disastrous precedent for the open internet. So it's the idea of, hey, we expect browsers to put in these measures to, in essence, block certain sites from being accessed at the browser level. While motivated by a legitimate concern, this move to block websites directly within the browser would be disastrous for the open internet and disproportionate to the goals of the legal proposal. Fighting fraud. It would also set a worrying precedent and create technical capabilities that other regimes will leverage for far more nefarious purposes. Leveraging existing malware and phishing protection offerings rather than replacing them with government-provided device-level block lists is a far better route to achieve the goals of the legislation. Rest of the World Post will provide a brief overview of the current state of phishing protection systems in the browsers, distinction between industry practices, and yeah. Two most commonly used malware and phishing protection systems in the industry are Google's Safe Browsing and Microsoft's Smart Screen, where Mozilla, along with Apple, Brave, and many others, use Google's Safe Browsing. Safe Browsing service has been around since at least 2005 and currently protects close to half the world's online population on various devices and software. Covers malware, unwanted software, social engineering, so on. It also has broad policies that are fairly robust, and it is also available via a free API, which makes it a more cost-effective way for organizations to protect users. I don't know how that worked with the phishing link that I posted about a bit ago, but Firefox has used Google's Safe Browsing, offering more than a decade, and has a unique privacy-preserving implementation that protects user privacy while simultaneously preventing them from becoming victims of malware and phishing. So you've got a bunch of sites in a list, and it's like, hey, these are some fishy sites. Let's see. Forcing browsers to create capabilities that enable website blocking at the browser level is a slippery slope. It might be leveraged only for malware and phishing in France today. It will set a precedent and create the technical capability within browsers for whatever a government might want to restrict or criminalize in a given jurisdiction forever. A world in which browsers can be forced to incorporate a list of banned websites at the software level that simply do not open either in a region or globally is a worrying prospect that raises serious concerns around freedom of expression. If it successfully passes into law, the precedent would would make it harder for browsers to reject such requests from other governments. So you, as an organization that doesn't necessarily operate there, you just say, no, we're not doing it. And, oh, you can't distribute to us then. It's like, well, that's fine because the people will still do it themselves. But anyway. So it's kind of the idea of you're basically embedding malware into the browser itself. There are actually probably browsers out there that already do this. Let's look at China, for example, as to what goes on there. I think part of this worry is the fact that, hey, if France says we want to do this, then Russia's going to come along and say, hey, we want to do this. And Mozilla feels like they're going to have to kowtow to it because, well, we're doing it for someone else. So they go over better solutions, but this is the idea that we're going to block certain web services at the browser level, and Mozilla doesn't like that. Again, kind of DSA not a tool for censorship, demanding clarity from EU Commissioner. Call on the European Commission. So Mozilla and civil society organizations call on the European Commission for the internal market. Thierry Breton to clarify comments he made in response to the protests in France. Commissioner Breton implied that arbitrary blocking online platforms can be justified under the EU's Digital Services Act, which is a dangerous overinterpretation of the new regulation. So this is the idea that Mozilla doesn't like the fact that some government can arbitrarily say that, oh, we are going to block these things. We urge the Commission to ensure that the national implementation of the DSA respects the regulation's objectives and upholds fundamental rights. French draft law to secure and regulate space, which is supposed to implement the DSA and other European legislation to the national level, risks doing the opposite, well, overstepping the regulation. Browsers are user agents, not tools of government censorship. This kind of dystopian technical capability does not exist anywhere in the world. Mozilla raised the alarm on this early on, since such a move would overturn decades of established norms and provide a playbook for authoritarian governments. So, July 26, 2023. Keep this in note, okay? We go on, okay? This is, again, it's kind of interesting that this is what they go for back in 2023, and then Mozilla ends up blocking anti-censorship and privacy protecting extensions in Firefox at Russia's behest, basically. Mozilla and the Mozilla Foundation have begun banning access to censorship circumvention Firefox extensions in Russia in direct contradiction of the company's stated principles. So this is a thing of where you see already they were saying, hey, we don't like this censorship thing. Please no. And then they go and block certain plugins or extensions that do that thing and limit a user's ability to choose their own experience at the behest of a government. Opening statement of the Mozilla Manifesto: we are committed to an internet that includes all the peoples of the earth, where a person's demographic characteristics do not determine their online access, opportunities, or quality of experience. And then Principle 2, the internet is a global public resource that must remain open and accessible. Okay? Mozilla violated this by, so as of the article, in Russia, the Censor Tracker, Runet Censorship Bypass, Planet VPN, and Fast Proxy plugins were banned to Russian browsers. So a few things that should be noted about the significant change by Mozilla: these extensions are still available in other regions. These extensions are available within Russia until a few days ago. And the developers of these extensions were not notified of the censorship by Mozilla. It's not illegal in Russia. Censorship was implemented by Mozilla, not any government. So, Yeah. So as of June 13th, again, this happened in 2024. Mozilla has reversed their censorship of these Firefox extensions and released an official statement which appears specifically written to address the criticism outlined in this article. In alignment with our commitment to an open and accessible internet, Mozilla will reinstate previously restricted listings in Russia. Our initial decision to temporarily restrict these listings was made while we considered the regulatory environment in Russia and the potential risk to our community and staff. As outlined in our manifesto, Mozilla's core principles emphasize the importance of an internet that is a global public resource, open and accessible to all. Users should be free to customize and enhance their online experience through add-ons without undue restrictions. By reinstating these add-ons, we reaffirm our dedication to openness, accessibility. So, in essence, they kind of put aside some of their principles. Rather than like leaving their principles in place while they decided what to do, they decided to sidestep some things for their community and other things in order to avoid any risk from a government. And these sound like they would be some foundational principles and that Mozilla should have. But obviously it seems that they're not, because they put them aside temporarily in order to figure out what to do next. Whereas someone that has certain foundational principles are going to more than likely leave things as they are, because they see that as the best way to do things. And it leaves things open and accessible in this case with Mozilla's principles. But then they will find a way to work with that government and still abide by those principles. So again, this is a Mozilla forum post. So Censor Tracker, let's see, Planet VPN, Fast Proxy. What do you say? This is bringing up, again, the Mozilla Manifesto. Let's see. It's not illegal to circumvent censorship in Russia. However, propaganda of ways of bypassing censorship is punished by law. Running a Tor node is also illegal, so no, Mozilla's blocking of add-ons doesn't result in helping Russian users to avoid torture or imprisonment. I believe you meant not facing, but avoiding the danger. So it is, again, Mozilla having them up doesn't mean that they are propagandizing ways of bypassing censorship. Use of tools to circumvent censorship not prohibited. Mozilla's support of censorship and prohibition of bypassing blocks will put users at risk of persecution. Let's see. You were expected to fight censorship, not join it, obviously. After recent regulatory changes in Russia, we began to receive persistent requests from Roskomnadzor demanding that we remove 5 extensions from Mozilla Extension Store. After careful consideration, we have temporarily limited their availability in Russia. Realizing the consequences of these actions, we are carefully considering further steps, taking our local community into account. So, again, it's a foreign government, and this is in 2024. After everybody's been saying, tell Russia to go blow, all of a sudden Mozilla is bending the knee to Russia. I mean, literally, we saw a bunch of, in 2022, we saw a bunch of things from Russia get blocked in various different projects. And then Mozilla comes in and says, oh, Big Bad Russia doesn't stand up to Big Bad Russia, but basically bends the knee for censorship within Russia, rather than fighting the good fight, as some people would say that Ukraine is doing. Let's see. Yeah, that's most of the stuff. So, wanted to provide you the latest update here, as well as thank you for your patience while we work through this issue. This is the same statement as before. So, yeah. But yeah, so you can see it kind of made the rounds as well. Entity behind the Firefox following recent Let's see, yeah. The chief technical officer, Russian Open Internet Group, said he hoped it was a rash decision by Mozilla that will be more carefully examined. It's kind of unpleasant surprise because we thought the values of this corporation were very clear in terms of access to information, and its policy was somewhat different. And due to these values, it should not be so simple to comply with state censors and fulfill the requirements of the laws that have little to do with common sense, which is kind of the point everybody's talking about. June 8th, developer of Censor Tracker, made a post on Mozilla's forum discussion saying that their extension was available to users in Russia. So yeah, again, 2024, June 2024. After the article, after the stuff where Mozilla's like, hey, this whole thing is harmful in Europe, don't pass it. Let's see. According to Mozilla's pledge for a healthy internet, the Mozilla Foundation is committed to an internet that includes all the peoples of the earth. Internet is a global public resource. Mozilla Foundation, which in tandem with its for-profit arm, Mozilla Corporation, releases Firefox, also operates its own VPN service. However, it is only available in 33 countries, a list that doesn't include Russia. The same for censorship circumvention add-ons also appear to be available for other web browsers. In general, it's hard to recall anyone who... Back to Shakirov. In general, it's hard to recall anyone else who has done something similar lately. For the last few months, Roskomnadzor, after the adoption of the law in Russia that prohibits promotion of tools for bypassing blockings, has been sending such complaints about content to everyone. So, I don't know if Mozilla released an article about this one in Russia, but they probably should have. Because then they could say, hey, look, we did stand up to them, but apparently it's possible that they didn't. So, someone just uninstalled Firefox, tried to avoid the political opinions, etc. of the leaders or organizations. However, there are some things that will absolutely piss me off and cause me to stop using the product or service. This is one of those things. Mozilla makes browsers, apps, code, and tools that put people before profit. Our mission, keep the internet open and accessible to all. Well, the circle is getting narrower. Mozilla, please consider donations for us. Same add-ons are available on Chrome Web Store. Let's see. Mozilla reverted the blocking of these add-ons, and users from Russia are available to use them again. Irony is immensely strong with this one. So everybody's, again, finding the irony of this, like, really funny. Because you supposedly have an organization that fights against censorship and regimes that would take advantage of it. And here they're like basically allowing themselves to be told what to do by other more authoritarian regimes, as they would see it. So I don't know of any instances of Brave doing this, but it's important to understand that, you know, you see this and then later on, a year or so later, that it happens that way. It's kind of worrying when people get talking about like, oh, but Brave would be worse than Mozilla. But is that really the case? Again, with this example of censorship. If you liked the content, if you enjoyed it, if you think I deserve it, like, comment, subscribe. Leave any criticisms you have or what have you. I appreciate it. Feed that algorithm, like I said, and I will see you guys in the next one.